It kind of felt like it was showing me something. I get this feeling I don't think we're supposed to be here.
Welcome to the channel. We're going to be talking about the new A24 film Death of a Unicorn. The film stars Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega as father and daughter who are on their way to meet up with a wealthy pharmaceutical CEO, but they end up accidentally killing a unicorn with their car, or so they think, and so they bring it up with them to this mansion where they're going to be meeting up with this pharmaceutical, and then shenanigans just begin to ensue. Going into this movie, I didn't watch any trailers to this movie because I just wanted this movie to be a huge surprise for me. I just knew that it starred Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and anytime you have those two attached to a project, I'm automatically going to be very interested. So going into this movie, I didn't have sky high expectations because I honestly did not know what this movie was going to be even about, and I came out pleasantly surprised by this movie. Is it a great movie? No, but when it comes down to A24 standards, this is the better of them because their track record is like a roller coaster. It just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And I just wanted this movie to be fun. I was hoping this movie would be fun and it wouldn't take itself too seriously. And thank God they don't, because that is the biggest praise that I have for this movie. Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega work together perfectly as father and daughter. They have such wonderful chemistry that to a certain point I am done with the angsty teen trope that we have in a lot of these different movies, and Jenna Ortega seems to be playing that role quite well. Whether you're talking about Wednesday or Beetlejuice, she plays that role great, but there is a layer to this character where she just lost her mother, so she's still on the angsty side. She likes her dad, but they don't have the best relationship, and I thought that worked to its benefit. The way that they just bounce off of each other, not just when the shenanigans is going down and you have a bunch of ravenous unicorns just hunting them down, but just the lead up to that. I really like their chemistry, their interactions, and you kind of get to see where they're coming to this point. Once we get into the mansion, we get to see Tiloni, who I haven't seen in a movie in forever. Will Poulter as their not the brightest son, but he plays that role great, and he is great when he is used for comedic relief. And you also had Richard E. Grant, who is dying of cancer. So once we get to this mansion, that is where a majority of this movie is taking place. It's mostly a one location type movie, except you do get to go into like the woods and stuff like that. You get the airport in the beginning, but for the most part, it just really is centered to this mansion because there is nowhere else to go. And the thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is how they take the perspective of how we see unicorns, and they put a little bit of a twist, if you will, because we see these unicorns as magical beasts, but what happens when you take away one of its babies? That's when we get to see the darker side of a unicorn. So on its merits, I really like how they took that trope of us thinking of these magical unicorns and kind of put a twist on it, because it does make you think about if unicorns were real, how would they react if you took one of their babies or accidentally killed one of their babies, and what the damage of that would be. I thought it was unique, it was really interesting, and it does make you think that maybe unicorns aren't the best to keep as pets, because they do lean into the magical aspect of these unicorns. Like when some blood gets on Jenna Ortega, it clears up her acne. When it gets on Paul Rudd, it cures his eyesight to the point where he is able to read a little bit better. And when it comes down to Richard E. Grant's character, it cures his cancer, which, you know, that is something that would be beneficial for everybody right now. So I really like the direction that this movie took. It is a bit of a dark comedy, so you do have some comedy in here that worked. A majority of the comedy in this movie absolutely worked for me. Not only do you have Paul Rudd, who is a veteran comedian, but you also have Will Poulter, and he is used mostly as the not the brightest, but he does come in as the comedic relief to alleviate the tones a little bit, because it does get a little bit darker, a little bit more violent towards the third act of this movie, and so they use him great. But we've seen his comedic chops in We're the Millers, and so he brings a lot of that in here, because even though I liked him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I don't think they served him all too well in the comedic side. So seeing him be the comedic relief in Death of a Unicorn kind of reminded me of his spot in We're the Millers. So I was able to enjoy that we were able to get that side of him again in this movie, because I thought he was perfect for what this role is. He does get to be a little bit more annoying towards the end of the movie, but overall I really enjoyed his performance. I thought he was great, and even Richard E. Grant and Tiloni, I thought everybody in that family had wonderful chemistry with one another, and you really enjoyed seeing their presence, even if you know exactly the route that they're going to be taking once we get to the end of the film. But this movie wasn't as bloody or as gory as I wanted it to be. You do get some gnarly kills in here, but they are so minimal. I was kind of wishing we would be able to get a little bit more in here. When the kills happen, they are entertaining to see on screen, and I really like the design of the unicorn. However, once we get to see the unicorns in the dark, that is when they don't look the best, and even the motion of them isn't really the best. But once we get to see them in the daylight, I thought that is when they looked a little bit better and the design came out a little bit more flawlessly. You do feel like once we get to the magical aspect of the unicorns, it does make you wish you had taken more psychedelics. There were some great visuals in here that I really loved to see, and I would have loved to see what it would have been like if I was on shrooms or something else. And so some of the visual designs and just the way that the mansion and the area surrounding it looks, I thought the cinematography and the direction to a certain degree, I thought worked for me. The thing about this movie is that it is a dark comedy, and sometimes the jokes do hit and other times they don't, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It knows exactly what kind of movie this is, and it just goes for it. I just wish this movie would have gone a little bit further into the carnage of it all and just seeing a little bit more of the dark unicorns. You do get some Jurassic Park vibes in here, and that is something that I really enjoyed, and so seeing some of that in here absolutely worked for me. Sometimes the tones don't collide together as much as I maybe want to, and it might get a little bit too weird for some people if you're not really familiar with A24 films, or those kind of films don't really vibe with you. But overall, I had a fun time with this movie. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There were some things in here that you could have tweaked a little bit better to make it a little bit more fun and have a little bit more fun with its overall premise, but it is one that you should run out to the theaters and check out because it's a lot of fun. If you are somebody that loves dark comedies, this movie is going to be fun for you. But for me, I liked it. I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. But those are my thoughts on Death of a Unicorn. Are you guys planning on checking this film out, or are you not? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know, what is your favorite A24 film?